All right, then. So we're going to get some, at least perspectives. So you make up your mind if it sheds light or heat on the subject matter, which is about the MPC and MBC amendment bills. We're heading to Abuja for that one. Marpa?
Thank you, Chamberlain. Indeed, I'm sure that if you did see the papers yesterday, their protest was loud and clear, with a lot of the dailies having that very big picture showing information blackout. And yes, you can see it right there. A lot of the dailies did have that on their front page, and that's what the issue is about. The proposed amendment of the NPC and NBC Acts. And we have here with us this morning Mr. Christopher Isiguzo, who is the President, Nigerian Union of Journalists, who was one of the sponsors, that's the Nigerian Union of Journalists, was one of the sponsors of that particular protest sign you saw on the front pages yesterday. And we also have with us Honorable Odebunmi, who is the Chairman, House Committee on Information, National Orientation, Ethics, and Values. He's a sponsor of the NBC-MPC Amendment Bill. Gentlemen, you're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. First, let me start with you, Mr. Isiguzo. Yesterday, we saw what happened on the front pages. It was seen that the best way to interpret that was that it was a protest. Is that correct?
Yeah, sure. That's our own way of demonstrating our opposition to the planned or the ongoing amendment process of the Nigeria Press Council Act and, of course, the NBC Act.
Who was the protest targeted at?
You know that we are talking about the right of the people to know, right to free expression. And if you go to the amendment bill and look at it critically, you see that some of the provisions contained there seek to criminalize journalism, seek to pigeonhole the media. By that I mean putting the media in the cooler. And if you are going to allow that to stand, when the media's right to free expression is no longer guaranteed, it simply means that democracy is imperiled. And that's why we've not got guns and all that. It is said that the pen is mightier than the sword. That's our own way of saying no to this. And that's why we came up with what you saw yesterday. And as we speak today also, all the major dailies, their editorial is on this too. And that's to tell you that we are very, very serious. We've asked them, we've asked the sponsor of the bill, we've asked the National Assembly, we've asked the government, whoever that is behind the bill, to drop it. By the time we engage properly, we are not saying like one of the things you just showed now, said, we're not saying don't do something about the situation we have, but we feel that you cannot gag free speech, because one of the key ingredients of democratic governance is the right of the people to freely express themselves. It's not just about the media.
So you haven't quite answered my question. What I was asking is, who was the protest targeted at? Was it members of the National Assembly? Was it the Nigerian public? What sort of reactions were you hoping to get from whoever it was you were targeting it at? Well,
simply put, those that are sponsoring the amendment bill. And Odebunmi, clear enough, he's here in the studio. And he is the sponsor. And he's probably not alone. The National Assembly, the government, it's very, very clear. The message there is, drop it. We don't want it. Until we properly interface, until we properly engage ourselves. For now, drop it. Let's come together and discuss.
Well, Honorable, you are the sponsor of this bill, and this is not the first time. I mean, perhaps this is the loudest protest we've seen so far, followed up today with editorials about this bill, but it created controversy the moment you decided to introduce the bill. Why did you introduce the bill? Because for a number of people who have gone through your background, you do not exactly, yes, you have, you've been in governance and politics for a long time, they'll grant you that, but you've not exactly been in the media space. So what exactly prompted this bill?
Well, thank you very much. And I want to appreciate this privilege. Let me go straight to the point. My intention is not to gang the press. And unless everybody or the practitioner can say all is well in the industry, to the best of my knowledge, I know all is not well. I'm not talking about you at the top, or those of you who are privileged to be working in a very good media house like Channel. But I know there are some under who are just, which their voice are unable to be coming out. All is not well. I know that one is sure. Then apart from that, I told my colleagues, I mean the critical stakeholders who care to listen to me, that I have the privilege of serving in this committee in the last assembly, especially about the press council. I know that all is not well with the agency. It's an agency of government. And before you can have an agency, you are expecting something to be given back to the society. But up to now, nothing has been given, or nothing has been coming out from the agency because of, I cannot say precisely that what might be the problem. Is it the leadership? Is it the structure? Whatever that the problem. But I know that National Assembly has the power to look into the law, the existing acts. This act we are talking about is over 40 years. It has been existing for almost 30, 40 years. Had it been somebody somewhere have plan of amending that law, maybe in the last 20 years, nobody will be talking about it right now. But go and check the existing act and tell me whether all is friendly with what we are talking about. But the best process all over the world is to take it to the table. I'm just using the privilege I have to bring it to the table for all the critical stakeholders to come. Whatever you think it is not good for you in the proposed bill, you have the privilege. My personal idea cannot make a law. Even when we pass through the public hearing, we will still take it to the floor, clause by clause. All my colleagues there will have their independent mind to take decision on it.
Honorable, what I'm asking is, what ills precisely, because, you know, amendments don't just come up.
Yeah.
What ills precisely were you seeking to cure when you proposed an amendment to the bill?
That's what I've been saying. I said...
You haven't quite pointed out anything in specific.
Specific as the act, the existing act. I said the existing act is... Have you ever checked the existing act? Have you ever had the privilege of checking the existing?
What problems did you have?
I said the existing act is not friendly at all. And the agency has not been performing their duty due to one problem or the other. But the best way is to look into the structure of the agency so that they can give the best for the country.
Now, the question I'm asking is, so as a result of the agency not performing its work, right, which is what you say has been happening,
as is part of,
how has it been affecting the media space, and which you think that by amending the act, it will cure, you know...
No, there are a lot of reasons. But I don't know whether you agree with me. There are a lot of quackery even in the system of the journalism. There are a lot of you are professional. But I'm aware that there are a lot of people out there that they are not non-professional people. They just pick their pens and do whatever they want about the people. But what we are saying, if you go through the amendment, I'm proposing a code that you critical stakeholders, you come together, come up with a code that will be guiding your system. Don't wait until the government will say we want to regulate you. Come up with a code within yourself And if there's anybody, if personally to me, if anybody write anything against me that I'm not satisfied with, then I can call on your body or write a petition to you. Report whoever do something wrong to me, report to you. Then you will take it up. I'm not saying the government should be regulating you. Don't wait until that. But I'm sure that if care is not taken, if you don't rise up to do that right now, in the next few years, something will happen. But why not take it up right now and do the right thing?
The complaints which you saw, the ills which you saw, did they come from amongst pressmen? Did you consult with them? Did they come to you to say, Honorable, this is the problems we're having, and we would like you to, use your privilege to help correct these ills?
Yes, being the chairman of that committee, a lot of people have been engaging with me. But I did not consult with any stakeholders before I came up with the amendment bill. Even I did not consult with the government. The Minister of Information gets to know about this about, I think, 4 or 5 days to the public hearing. The public hearing is the platform for consultation. It's already laid down in the rules. And the critical stakeholder will come together. Any area you think it is not okay with you, you write your memorandum and submit it. Then we come together to have a clean bill that will be guiding the system.
Mr. Izuguzo, let me come back to you. We have seen a lot of editorials on the front pages this morning, a lot of them very detailed in their opposition to this amendment and why they're opposed to it. Look at how it's captured, why Nigeria does not need more media regulatory bills. And Daily Trust has this no to anti-media bills. I think The Guardian said something to the effect, who is afraid of the free press? These are questions that have been, asked by the press this morning. I don't know if you have taken a look at some of the editorials. But there's also the other side of this. There's people who ask, who is afraid of regulation? Is the media space afraid of being regulated?
Well, thank you very much. I'm so happy that the Honorable has just told us that he didn't consult with any of the stakeholders. I know that in the business of lawmaking, before you go to the floor of the National Assembly to begin to advance a particular cause, you must first of all interface with your constituents. That's why they have sent you there. You go to them, you know what their needs are, you take those needs of theirs to the National Assembly, and you come up with legislation that properly captures the needs of your people. Now you are coming up with a bill which will have a direct impact. It would make direct impact on the practice of journalism, on media practice, and you didn't deem it necessary to interface with the stakeholders. That in itself is a complete failure on the part of the legislator. Number two, you're talking about you have issues, journalists, they do this. We have so many legislations. We have laws. We have the law on libel. We have law on sedition. We have even though we don't accept that, the Cybercrime Act of 2015, if a journalist has done something, you feel that you're not comfortable with it, there are existing laws on how to take care of those issues. Now, going straight to your question of who is afraid of regulation. Nobody's afraid of regulation. But any regulation that is tainted with obvious bias, because you are coming to do something that you feel would affect the industry. You took it up on your own. Until you got to public hearing, we didn't even know about it. I don't think that is the proper way to do things. We have said it that we are ready. All of us are ready. But we are not going to hand over that power to regulate the industry to the lawmaker. It's very, very clear. If you go to other climes, even very close to us here in Ghana, they have their own system, the way they operate. You allow the stakeholders, you allow the professionals, you allow the practitioners to regulate themselves. I said this the last time I was here. You allow us to regulate ourselves. If you have your ideas, if you are so clear, sincere with what you have in mind. Simple thing you would have done, even before putting up those together. You convene a meeting of stakeholders. Okay, look at my worries. Look at what I have in mind. How do we go about this? You don't ambush us, because what the lawmaker did, or what the National Assembly did, was to ambush us, to bring us to the public glare. Okay, look at what I have. Everybody is there. That's not an engagement. You understand? You would have consulted with the stakeholder. Let's sit together and discuss it. At the end of the day, when the bill comes out, all of us are together in it. But you already brought the bill to the public sphere, to the public. You now want us to come and discuss. What do you want us to discuss? And that's why we said, we are not accepting it the way it is. Drop it, we can now start discussing. We are not afraid of regulation. We are very, very much available. We're not saying this. Yes, we are concerned about the goings on in the system. We may not be so comfortable with some developments in the media space. Yes, but we cannot just throw the baby and the bathwater. We must discuss about it.
Let me quickly flip this to Lagos now, because I know that my colleagues have questions for you, gentlemen.
Okay, well, Honorable Odebunmi, well, listening to at least the perspective you've given so far, you say something is wrong in the media space, but from what we heard you say, the only issue you seem to have pointed out is either wrong reportage or quackery, as it were, and already there are laws that already cover those areas wherein if any wrong information, a sedition, a libel, those kind of things are already provided for in the law. So if that is your major concern, why come up with this law when the laws already provide for that?
Well, thank you very much. Before I answer that question, let me quickly respond to this. Look, the matter of consultation with my constituency is paramount, and no doubt about it. But the aspect we are talking about is the process of the lawmaking. There's a laid down rule for the law, for the process of the law. At the stage of the first reading, you just mention it in the floor. I'm surprised that if the president of the NUJ cannot be saying he's not aware of this, that means you are not monitoring what is going on the floor.
This bill in itself,
hold on, please.
We are now members of your constituency.
That is not the procedure, please. I gave you the privilege to make your point. What I'm saying is that the consultation aspect of the law-making process is tabled at the public hearing. And it's all over the world. That is the process. If I consulted with the executive before bringing up this bill, then definitely people will be alleging me that I'm taking a side. But this is the laid down rules for consultation. Now, going back to your question, yeah, that is, I just mentioned that one alone. It's not the alone reason why I came up with the law. And I want you to agree with me that this is an existing act. So how do we amend the existing act? And if you go through my proposal, I talk about the structure, that who will be handling day-to-day activities. Then there should be a board who also will be working together with the executive secretary. These are my proposals in the bill. So for them to have a good structure, and the Nigeria Press Council is already existing. Whether the amendment will give the power to the practitioner to be regulating themselves, I'm not afraid of that. And I'm not saying it can't happen. But if that is your thinking, bring it to the table. Give us the memorandum about it. It is not about going to the pages of paper. The law cannot make in the pages of paper. There's a process. So we are at the stage of expecting whatever their position, whatever the things is not good for them the practitioner in the bill, they should point it out. And mind you, we are in the system of a lot of technologies are coming to the system that is not recognized by the existing act, even both at NBC and NPC. We are working on the digital switchover with the NBC. If you remember, there's another committee in the National Assembly, in the 8th Assembly, yes, in the 8th Assembly, And part of their recommendation is that the National Assembly should provide a legal framework for the digital switchover. These are the things we are working upon. And it's stable for every critical stakeholders to come up with their own submission about it.
All right, a couple of things.
Everybody must agree because it's going to be guiding us.
A number of things have come up from your submissions, but about that consultation bit, let me just pick up on this, because you say that is the process of consultation when it gets to the floor. But we've all watched and seen that that is not the same process that the National Assembly followed when it was with the PIB. Is that right?
No, that is the same process. All the consultation was after the public hearing, people are now consulting, having a meeting together. That is the process. After all the consultation, then you have the clean bill that will now lay back to the National Assembly for third reading.
Oh, no, but there were several meetings with stakeholders and professionals in that industry beyond the National Assembly.
Yes.
Members of the Assembly
after
called.
the public hearing.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I'm saying the same thing with you. What I'm saying is that all those meetings is after the public hearing, and you will now be engaging the critical stakeholders. And there's no limited time for that. You can have that for even a year for consultations. Then after you now have come up with a clean bill that will be agreed by the majority, you cannot have everybody on it. But if the majority now agree with it, then you proceed to lay it to the floor. And by you subject the approval to the members of the National Assembly to approve the clause by clause.
Okay, so now you say that something is not right in the media space. And then you come up with the bill, and then
you even confirm that now?
No, I'm quoting you. You were the one who said, from what you saw...
the president confirmed that to you right now.
All right, but when you then have an issue with an existing law and you want to amend, I thought the natural thing was to have said, well, we've seen something wrong here. We've approached the people who are practitioners in the industry to see how do we correct this. But if they're not coming up with any answer, then we've got no choice than to come up with this bill. But they're saying that, look, there's nothing wrong in identifying and then trying to improve the profession or the practice. They are quarreling with the process. But you say that, no, you are sticking with your guns. That then makes people wonder, isn't there much more to this than what you say you just want to correct?
No. It's only maybe you don't have the privilege of engaging in all this while. We have been on this matter for a while. And our conclusion is that, personally, I'm suspending the process for more consultations. That is what I said last week. But, you know, what I'm saying is the journalists or the NUJ cannot even gang the process of the National Assembly by saying, no, you must drop it. That is not the way. That is not the way of doing things.
If I get you correctly, you're saying that this bill has been suspended for now.
Yeah, I said we have suspended the process for more consultation to happen on it. They demanded for a lot of time. I said, no, no problem. I've given you, even if you spend 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks,
1 year, 2 years.
So for more consultation, there are critical stakeholders in it. And many people have been submitting their memorandums to the National Assembly.
Okay, if we could just talk about the...
within the industry.
Okay, just before we go to break in about 2-3 minutes, I want us to talk about the history of this bill. Some call it a decree that was eventually made into a bill. Tell us the history of the MPC, because the matter is in court, as I'm aware of, at least it's at the Supreme Court now, waiting to be ruled upon. Where did this bill, original bill that you're trying to amend, where did it emanate from?
I told you now, it's existing act. The act is with us in the National Assembly. You have access to it. It's an existing act. So, and if you go through my own proposal, you will see that even the major one is the section 2 of the bill.
Okay.
And some review of some fine. Yeah.
Right. Well, ideally, I shouldn't do this, but let me answer my question. So this bill was originally, or the act which you're trying to amend, was originally a decree during the military era. And over time, the NPO at that time had issues with it. The matter was taken to court. There was a court ruling on it. So originally, what you're trying to amend, the press sees it as even gagging the press. Now you're amending it and adding more, sections to it that seems to be gagging it the more. I don't know if you get the context I'm in right now. So how about even resolve the original act
I disagree
that
with
is
that.
contentious before even adding these amendments?
I disagree with that. If you check my proposal, I did not add more to what is existing. I want to put what is existing on the table of every critical stakeholders so that we can expunge and add value to MPC. What I'm seeing behind is very far.
Honorable
The
Odebunmi,
welfareism of the even journalists
pardon me.
should be
Pardon me, you said you didn't add to it. So what is this amendment about? What are you amending then if you didn't add to it? I'm going to read some sections, but just to be clear, that's what you said.
Okay.
No, go ahead. Why amend when you say you didn't add? What's this amendment
That's what I'm
about
saying.
then?
I said there are a lot of questions that yet to be answered. There are a lot of things for the Nigeria Press Council to deliver to Nigerians that they cannot, because of either the structure of the way it was structured, maybe the critical stakeholders are not comfortable with it, and the only body that can call this to amend it is the National Assembly, which I'm giving myself for the service to do.
Right. So,
Call on the
Honorable,
critical stakeholders.
I did say we'll take a break in about 2-3 minutes.
Why can't we have the clean bid?
So that 2-3 minutes is now, pardon me. So we'll go to break. There's still a lot of questions not answered really, because you're amending this, but you say you're not adding anything to it. And there are sections which have been imputed into the amendment which you're working on. So we'll go to break, and when we return, we'll talk more on this. Please stay with us. Honorable Olusegun Odebunmi is the Chairman, House Committee on Information, National Orientation, Ethics and Values, is a sponsor of the NBC-NPC Amendment Bill. And also we have Mr. Christopher Ezeguzo, the President of the NUJ. Both of them still with us in our Abuja studio discussing this big issue. And Honorable Odebunmi, just before I take it back to Mr. Ezeguzo, in fact, let me do that right now, and of course we'll come back to you just to get his response to some of the issues raised before the break about the history of the MPC Act, which is currently being amended, and the issues that the NPO and practitioners had with it, that they had to now take it to court, and now it's at the Supreme Court level. So, Mr. Ezeguzo, if you could just give us that background before I take it back to the Honorable.
Well, once more, thank you very much. But before I respond to that, I want to quickly respond to what Ben Carlo said, the spokesman of the House of Representatives, when he was talking about regulation is the way to go. Well, like I said earlier on, we are not averse to being regulated or regulation. Nobody is supposed to it. But what we're saying is that the process must be clearly spelled out, made very clear to every stakeholder, and that's exactly our position on that. You also have made reference to the matter before the Supreme Court, which is known to the sponsor of the NBC amendment bills. We won the case at the Court of First Instance. Of course, the government won at the appeal court, and now the matter is before the Apex Court. Even during the public hearing, where we made some representations, myself, I was there, the MPAN, and of course the Guild of Editors, they were equally represented. We did tell the lawmakers that this matter is before the Supreme Court, and that going ahead with this process is more like Subjudice, but he disagreed with us. I think that what they could not get from the judiciary, they want to get from the legislature. That's a very clear thing. And we said, no, we don't accept that. And of course, he did say that the judiciary is not going to stop them from going ahead with their legislative activities or functions. You defined it. The Nigerian Press Organization, we made it clear that the Nigerian Press Council, as presently constituted, is not in tandem with the spirit and letters of free press. And that's why we have clearly opposed activities of MPC. As we speak, the MPO has not made any presentations to the board of MPC, and that's why nothing is working. He has consistently made reference to an existing act. That act, has it worked? The answer is no, because the critical stakeholders, as variously described us, we have not accepted it the way it is, you know, and that's why we said that we are not comfortable with the ambush, because if he has shown lots of sincerity in the procedure he has adopted, maybe from the outset, engage the critical stakeholders, and we'll be on the same page. There wouldn't have been this back and forth issue of suspending the process and maybe coming back and all that. You've already brought us to the public sphere. And that's why we are making our own case before the public. The MPAN and, of course, the president of MPO spoke earlier. We are not opposed to these things, but procedurally, let's do the right thing. You know, if we have found faults with the existing act and there is need to come up with a law that will be acceptable to all, then we would have all been engaged, interfaced with, consulted, and we'll be on the same page with it. But they didn't do that. Ben Kalu, the spokesman of the House of Representatives, also talked about the issue of fake news to stop journalists from overheating the polity with stories that are unverified and all that. I said earlier on, we have existing laws to tackle such issues. We have the laws on libel. We have the laws on sedition. We have the criminal and penal codes. If you go there, they also attend to some of these issues. In 2015, the legislature came up with the Cybercrime Act, which has also substantially attended to these issues. So if we already have existing laws, we don't need to be in a haste to amend the Nigerian Press Council. Let the stakeholders come up together so that we don't also end up coming up with a law that is not functional. Nobody can continue to celebrate that we have, okay, during my time in the National Assembly, I have been able to initiate 100 laws, and at the end of the day, none of the laws is functional. Nobody is operating them. Then it makes no sense of the entire process. That's why we said, let's come together. At the end of the day, if we come up with this bill together and it works, and all of us agree to it, it becomes functional, the credit still goes to him. And all the people that are with him in the process. Let us come together, suspend the entire system, the law, then we have something that works for us. That's exactly what we're saying. We are not averse to being regulated. Nobody is opposed to it.
Do you think the press perhaps waited a little too long? Because having looked at all of these issues, both regarding the print and the broadcast media, even the online version, that there really was a need to address those concerns that you raised. For instance, if the press had come together and said, look, this is our own proposition of how we think this should be done in line with global best practices, rather than maybe just wait to be ambushed, as you say. If the press had done that, do you think we would have been where we are today?
Well, initially, we came up with the ombudsman strategy, which, of course, we believe didn't really turn out the way we wanted it. As we speak, the stakeholders, the NGE, NUJ, MPAN, we are coming up, we have committees in place that are already designing something that will work for all of us. Like you said, allow the professionals to regulate themselves. So we are not just leaving it vague. We are not just leaving it dead, no. We have committees in place that have been set up and we're already designing something. So when we are asking them to not to go ahead with what they have introduced, it's not like we're keeping quiet. You know, what we've done yesterday and what we've done today, what we're going to still be doing tomorrow and the weeks to come, they're already designed. So we are coming up with something, you know. By the end of the day, you are likely going to have something like Press Complaints Commission. You are going to have something made up of a team of seasoned professionals, you know, that will be able to attend to some of these issues that is raising worries, his concerns in the media and all that. Besides, the bulk of the problems we have today in this country are not just more with the media. We have a whole lot of array of issues that we should address. You know, this is just one out of many. So why are we in a haste to parcel the media and put it in a pigeonhole? That is not going to solve any problem for us. We are going to stop the people from expressing themselves, speaking their minds, which is a hallmark of democratic governance. That's what we are saying. It's not just about us. It's about the Nigerian populace. Allow us to regulate ourselves. Allow us to discipline ourselves. If there are issues, we know how to handle them. That is it.
Well, Mr. Isiguzo, I'm just wondering why, I mean, by way of following up on the question that Chamberlain asked, because I'm pretty sure that there are several other issues that are not going to be addressed until such a thing as is happening now happens. For instance, we have had quite a number of media practitioners, pressmen, journalists like yourself in the National Assembly, you know, even a former NUJ president has been in the Senate, and a good number of them in the House of Representatives as well. I'm wondering why it took this long, and will it take this long going further? Because if that kind of conversation had been on, you talked about the fact that the press didn't accept the NPC Act, but the NPC Act was binding on the media. So if any action had been taken on that score, the media would have been bound by it because it is a question of law. I'm wondering what the issues were that made it to stay this long, and how do we ensure this doesn't happen again?
Well, I think we've got to make progress. Like I said, we have already started the process of attending to some of these issues as we've been talking about the fake news. We talked about the new developments in the media, the social media, which nobody envisaged in the past. We are all going to bring this together in our new, the efforts we are making now, you know. So, but if we are going to, you know, ambush us this way, it's going to be a huge challenge. Granted, some of the steps taken in the past may not have been so clear before the public. But I must tell you that if you go to NUJ, journalists that have exhibited some unethical behaviors, rather, you know, they have been sanctioned. It's not like we have kept quiet. If you go to some media houses as we speak, there are journalists that have been suspended and their salary stopped because of ethical misbehaviors. You know, these things are on across media houses. It's not like we need to come and use trumpets to say it everywhere. We have our own internal mechanism, internal strategy of attending to issues with journalists that have gone off the cuff. That's the truth. We have that system. It's not like we need to begin to sing it every now and then. We are not quiet. As we speak, major media houses have disciplined people at the level of NUJ. People have been disciplined, you know, because of their misconducts. We have done that. It's not like we're keeping quiet. The media is up to task in ensuring that we discipline erring members. It's very clear. That's the truth. You know, it's not like the media is not doing something. We are doing a whole lot.
Is that going to include perhaps the conduct of media owners? Because you have journalists who, they don't get paid, the salaries as or when due, the conditions of service, labor laws, adherence to labor laws. Those are part of the issues that practitioners themselves but also need to address. Is that going to feature in part of the amendments that we're looking forward to, the self-regulation amendments?
Well, from what we are doing now is all-encompassing. What we are doing now is all-encompassing. And by the time we come up with our templates, you too will be happy with what we've done. Yeah, we are concerned that journalists in most media platforms, they work without pay and all that. Yeah, and in the past, we've also been able to picket media houses. Last 2 weeks, we're almost going to picket one. But before we got to that stage, we needed to also engage them. I led some members of the union to that particular media house. And we sat down and we agreed with them. And they've assured us they are going to, implement some of the decisions we arrived at in that meeting. So some of these things, we don't need to begin to, trumpet them. No, but we are doing something. There are internal ways of attending to some of these important issues without necessarily making noise about them. That's the truth. We are concerned, like you said, people work without pay, some labor laws that are, breached and all that. With what we have put in place, with the new engagement we are doing now, at the level of Nigerian Press Organization, we are taking care of these issues one after the other.
So it might be a good idea sometimes to put that information out there. Otherwise, the press would, everyone, government would think, okay, fake news is a problem and the practitioners are not doing anything about it. That's just on the side. But let me ask Honorable Odebunmi. We've talked largely about, the print media because of all of the agitations that you have seen. But then there is also the issue of the NBC amendments. And I'm just wondering, what are those issues that you feel maybe the media are leaving out, that they're not addressing themselves, that are giving you concern, for which reason you said, let's make some amendments?
Thank you very much. Before I go to that, I am happy that I'm vindicated now, that he has agreed that there's a lot of problem in the system that needs to work on. And mind you, we are looking at Nigeria as a space for everyone. National Assembly is the voice for the voiceless, who can consult us under it. And we are the person to make it loud. What I'm trying to say is that we are not rushing into making any law, but we identified as a problem. And we are recommending in that bill, if you go through it, I'm recommending a code that will be put together by the critical stakeholders. So if anybody want to report, they will report to you for you to work on it. And it is better for you to have it now. If you wait for some years to come, there will be no option for the government to come up with it. Because we cannot allow, they say something that they cannot allow the National Assembly to regulate them. No.
In this issue that you just mentioned now, Honorable, just 1 second, on that matter that you just raised now, the press code, you are saying that code in the recommendation you are making, that it should be approved by the minister. What if the minister is not a practitioner?
Yes, that is my proposal, but my proposal is not bad.
But why was it proposed in the first place?
You can come up with any other idea.
Why was it proposed in the first place? What was the intention?
To me, you cannot make a code and approve the code by yourself.
Do you think the same thing? Just 1 second, Honorable, just 1 second. Just 1 second. Do you think that same provision that you are recommending can be applied in the health sector if the Honorable Minister of Health is not a medical practitioner?
I think, try to get what I'm saying. I said it's a proposal. But if you give me the best
let's just imagine that this proposal was also made. Is it possible? Is it possible that a minister who is not a medical practitioner can approve the laws and approve a practicing code for a specialized industry such as health?
Why not? Because he is not the one to put the code together. The code will be put together by the critical stakeholders. We are saying that, okay, you have put it together, let somebody approve it, that this is acceptable code by everybody.
Okay,
and if you don't want the minister to approve it, recommend the other.
Okay,
other
let's go to the substantive issue. Let's go to the substantive issue.
Whatever you think is the best, then
yes,
we take
just a moment. Let's go to the substantive issue of the NBC Act, the amendments that you are proposing. One of the amendments also says that you are giving a lot more power to the minister over the practitioners. He may not be a practitioner, and consequently may not understand the issues in the industry.
I quite agree with you. I said that is my own proposal, that the minister should do this. Mind you, you can be Minister of Information tomorrow. So it is not for somebody, it's for that office. And if the practitioner said, no, we are not giving this to the minister, recommend somebody else. We can recommend the board, you can recommend National Assembly, but somebody else must approve whatever somebody has done. You cannot be the recommendation and at the same time you be the approval personnel. No, somebody else must be in charge of that. That's what we are saying. Okay. I'm not saying whatever my recommendation is banned.
Honorable.
And the NBC you were talking about.
Right. Please go on.
I said in the 8th Assembly, there's an ad hoc committee that work on the digital switchover. And part of their recommendation is that the National Assembly should provide a legal framework that will be guiding the process of all this, that will include the digitals into their acts, because the existing law does not even envisage that the present situation will come up. All this media, online, everything. So that is what we are working on. And it is not banned. It is our proposal for critical stakeholders to come up and say...
with due respect, the number of people just these proposals that you have put forward, because you have said, oh, my proposals are not binding. If you're not binding, you can bring forward your own. However, the very fact that that the way it usually works, that a Minister of Information speaks for a government in power, and then that the press usually has to be independent. You now say that the Minister for Information should approve whatever it is that the press brings forward. I mean, there'll be huge questions of what sort of thinking informed that sort of proposal in the first instance.
Yeah, I agree with you. I can feel the fear.
So you agree
but
that
what I'm saying,
you agree that there was some mischief intended in what you proposed?
No, I said, what's your fear? But what I'm saying is that this is not the minister. The minister will not amend anything. It's you, the critical stakeholder, that will come up with the code.
Honorable, let me read sections of your proposal to you. I mean, so that our public can understand this. You say, with the approval of the Minister in charge of information, establish and disseminate a national press code and standards to guide conduct of print media, related media, and media practitioners. In other words, the Minister of Information will approve, establish, and disseminate a national press code. You say the minister is also to approve penalties and fines against violation of the press code by print media houses and practitioners, including revocation of license. You're suggesting that the minister will also be the one to license media houses. So if the minister doesn't like the face of the media house, the minister can withdraw the license of the media house. No. These are some of the things that you're proposing in this amendment.
No.
Is that correct?
No. I think you should understand where I'm coming from. The minister is not amending anything. My proposal. What I'm saying is the critical stakeholders... The
minister is not amending anything. The minister is approving everything.
And then that is my own submission. But give me
what sort of thinking, brought up that sort of proposal in the first instance? If you say that all is not well in the media industry and you are seeking to correct and, change things in the media for the better, how does this sort of proposal change things for the better?
Yeah, thank you very much. That code to be regulating by themselves. The code I'm recommending, that you come up together and come up with the code. That is regulation. But if you come up with the code, somebody else will say, okay, this is what you have agreed. I have that, approve it. And if you don't want the minister to approve it, recommend somebody else.
Can you tell us where it is? In just a moment, Mr. Eziguso, what practice you have followed? Because, I mean, as Mr. Eziguso pointed out here, that even in neighboring Ghana, that is not the situation. In the advanced democracies that we copy, that is not the situation. You know, what model would we say that we have followed in this instance to come up with the kind of bills that we have come up that has put all the media houses, there is at least almost all the print media houses are up in arms. They have expressed their displeasure in no uncertain terms with this particular bill, and you still think it's okay?
Why would I say it's not okay? That is my proposal, and I will defend what I put to the table. What I'm saying is that the proposal, you know, what we are saying, the capital, I mean, there are investors aspect of the journalism. There are some who have put their investment in it. But the product of the paper is about Nigerians, is about everybody. And we want somebody, their own stakeholders, that they should stand up to regulate whatever fear the Nigerians are having about it. And whatever my proposal, I'm not saying, I said it's not banned. That come on, this is the model you are talking about. Come on with the model you want.
Honorable, you know, I'm looking at the fact that you're the chairman, House Committee on Information, National Orientation. There's a whole national orientation agency that people have been saying, what are they doing, what are they doing? There have been no proposals on that. I mean, there's ethics, which you're also the chairman of, I think, ethics, and I'm trying to look at the name of the last part.
Ethics and privilege.
Ethics and privileges. Is it in the House?
No.
Ethics and privileges in the
House? No, I thought the completion of the...
I'm trying to, yes, ethics and values. Yes, National Information, House Committee on Information, National Orientation, ethics and values. I mean, there have been a lot of issues around ethics and values in Nigeria and how to ensure that we entrench back our ethics and, you know, uphold values. There are no concrete bills being proposed in that regard. It is the media.
That is another national question that call for answer. We are working on that too. But the major issue about the NOA is funding. Their law. If there's need for amendment on their law, we will put it on the table.
Mr. Eziguso, let me quickly ask you this. Do you think that this is going to affect the media's idea of balance and fairness? Because the media has already set out its protest in very clear terms. Would you still be willing to take the other side of the argument also in the dailies as well?
Well, I think, first of all, with what you've read to him, which I believe he probably didn't know those details in that proposed amendment bill, I think it's dawned on him that he would have to do the needful, because if we allow what he is recommending, which of course he has not made any reference to any model anyway, what the implication is that before any newspaper goes to bed, whatever you want to dish out tomorrow, you submit it to the Honorable Minister to approve. That's, in clear terms, what he is recommending. I believe when he started this process, he didn't know it is going to get to this point. I want to once again publicly tell him that now that you've seen the reality, do the needful, eat the humble pie, and withdraw this obnoxious bill. Well, you asked a question
about balance and fairness.
Well, if we continue with what is recommending, of course these things disappear. That's the truth. But for us, the media has always, what we're demanding is allow us free operation. Don't gag us. Which means for any media that wants to maintain its credibility and integrity, it must maintain such critical features about balance, about fairness. It must be authoritative. It must be accurate. Any media platform that does not replicate all these features in its activities, that media will not stand the test of time. That's the truth. For them to survive, these things must be reflected in all you churn out to the public. So that's what we made. But from what they are now recommending,
Mr. Isiguzo, I'm so sorry, we're totally out of time. We really have to run because we have a commercial break. Mr. Christopher Isiguzo is the President, Nigerian Union of Journalists. Honorable Olusegun Odebunmi, Chairman, House Committee on Information, National Orientation, Ethics and Values, and sponsor of the NPC Amendment Bill. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you very much.
We are not gagging the press.
We'll take a break.
And we will not accept the gagging of the press.
People can make up their minds. We'll take a break at this moment and we'll be back shortly. Please stay with us.